Kidnappings, bombings, triple homicide, knife fights, 10 murders, and a dozen attempted murders. A hitman takes on a drug kingpin, the Malmö War. Until this conflict, Danny J, or the Jew, has never been convicted of any serious crimes, even though he was involved in several investigations and was long suspected of being a leading criminal in Malmö's underworld and a major figure in Sweden regarding drug smuggling and distribution, always keeping a low profile, and his nickname came from him being notoriously cheap. June 7th, 2018. On a Thursday evening at 8 o'clock in the evening, Danny J's 20-year-old little brother is kidnapped by several men outside his home on Eriksdalsgatan in Katrinelund in Malmö and dragged into a white rented van and taken away. The kidnappers demand a ransom, and if Danny doesn't pay, he will find his brother's head in the middle of the square, Stortorget, in Malmö. 3 young men aged 25 were arrested, and then 2 of the men are detained for kidnapping and weapon charges. 3 days later, at 8:10 on Sunday evening, a civilian finds the kidnapped 20-year-old walking around, and he says nothing to the police during the interrogation. According to sources, Danny's little brother had a symbol carved on his body and was released after a ransom of 20 million Swedish crowns had been paid to the kidnappers. Amir Mekki, aka the Boxer, aka the Ghost, only 21 years old at this time, and his henchmen are behind it. Revenge is swift. June 18th, 2018. Amir Mekki with friends are at the internet cafe Galaxy on Drottninggatan in Malmö. At 8 p.m, 9 of them went outside to get some fresh air. A customized grey Saab 95 hatchback model has been circling the area for at least a half an hour, and it's now parked right outside. At least one shooter opens fire with an AK-47 at the men. Crime scene investigators find at least 20 empty shell casings at the scene. The shooter knew what he was doing, police said. 6 men are hit by the hail of bullets, 3 of them die, and 1 is seriously injured. Amir miraculously survives the attack, which becomes the triple murder, where he was the main target. He was slightly injured when he is grazed by a bullet in the leg. Those who die in the attack are 19, 27, and 29 years old, Umar and 2 brothers. Amir is only 21 years old at the time, but is already known in the underworld, suspected of several attempted murders, having been convicted of robbery and drug offenses. He and one of his closest friends, A2, are already suspected of having committed at least 1 murder together. A2 is later killed in Tensta in Stockholm in the Shottaz vs Dödspatrullen gang war. According to sources, revenge for A2 is taken by Amir when the alleged killer of A2's brother is murdered. June 21st, 2018. 3 days after the triple murder, retaliation comes. The shooting occurred at night at 10:10 at Lindängsplan. 2 masked suspects on a moped appear and fire several shots at a car. The victim was taken to the hospital in a private car but succumbed to his injuries. The victim is Axe, 24-year-old uncle. Axe's father and the victim's older brother was the leader of the Wolfpack motorcycle gang and was murdered in 2011, shot dead in the so-called taxi murder, which was the start of the taxi war. July 3rd, 2018. On the morning of July 3rd, 2018, Sam contacted a 24-year-old man he knew and asked him to go to an address in Malmö together with his 29-year-old friend. At the meeting, Sam and another man got into the 24-year-old's car and showed him the way to a parking lot in Nydala. When they arrived and got out of the car, they were met by 2 more friends of Sam, but it was a trap. In the parking lot, Sam suddenly pulled out a gun and the men were forced into a park about 50 meters away. Sam held a weapon and first fired several shots at the 24-year-old. 4 bullets hit him in the back and 1 in the shoulder. The 24-year-old died instantly. Then Sam turned to the 29-year-old and started shooting again. One shot hit the 29-year-old in the thigh, one in the lower leg, one in the buttocks, and one in the thumb. Then the gun was pointed at his head. But by then the 9 bullets ran out, which saved the 29-year-old. He survived the execution attempt and identified Sam as the shooter. Sam was convicted of the murder and attempted murder and received a life sentence. His 3 friends that were with him was found not guilty. July 16th, 2018. An armed man on a moped enters Rosengård on von Rosensväg. Saki is first shot with 2 shots that knock him to the ground. After that, the shooter drove right up to Saki, finished the job at point blank range with 2 more shots. The last shot hit him in the back of the head. Saki was one of the men in custody for the kidnapping of Danny's little brother, but was later released. A Gävle resident, Samir, was later arrested by a police SWAT team. The prosecutor believed that Samir was only in Malmö to carry out the murder. The murder had been preceded by careful planning and was a brutal execution. Given that Samir has no connection to the Malmö area nor the victim, he was considered to be a hired hitman. The murderer was given 12.5 years in prison by tingsrätten and not 18 years because he was only 20 years old when he committed the murder. Another man, the gangster rapper Bash, was sentenced to 4 years in prison for aiding and abetting murder by tingsrätten because he provided Samir with the moped that was used in the murder. Later in 2020, after appeal, Bash is acquitted. August 26th, 2019. It was on August 26th, 2019 that the 31-year-old mother of 1 and doctor, Carolina Kingp, was on her way with her husband, Niffe, and their baby to a doctor appointment when she was shot to death on Sergelsväg in Ribersborg in Malmö. She was holding her baby in her arms when she was shot several times. The baby fell to the ground and suffered minor injuries. The real target was her husband, Niffe, who is linked to Danny J, but for unknown reasons the shooter turned to Carolina Kingp instead. Several people witnessed the shooting, and a resident managed to film the shooter as he ran from the scene. In January 2020, a 22-year-old was arrested for the murder, but he was later released in August. October 31st, 2019. At 10 p.m. on a Thursday evening, the police were called to a shooting on Högaholm in Malmö. 2 cars are facing each other in the same lane. A man in all black clothing leaned his automatic weapon against a car roof and fired at the other car. Afterward, the perpetrator jumped into a black car of a smaller model, which the eyewitness believes was driven by someone else. The 28-year-old banker lay injured next to his car and paramedics can't save the man's life. The murdered 28-year-old was considered to be the banker for Amir Mekki. They had been stopped and checked in cars together by the police and had taken trips abroad on several occasions. December 24th, 2019. On Christmas Eve, 36-year-old Flamur, a former resident of Malmö, is shot dead outside his home in London in front of his family. When he comes home to his house in Battersea with his family, they are both holding hands with their 2-year-old son, who's walking in between the couple, and then Anis appears and fires at least 8 to 10 shots at Flamur. He is hit by several shots, including in the back of the head, and while he's lying in a large pool of blood, his wife screams for help. He is pronounced dead at the scene. The shooter bought clothes at Bauhaus in Malmö to camouflage himself before the murder mission in London at Christmas 2019. In the days before the fatal shooting, the shooter spied at the victim's residence in the luxurious London district of Battersea, disguised and wearing a latex mask. This is proved by the police's extensive review of CCTV footage. 24-year-old Anis, who is a Swedish and Tunisian citizen, denied the crime and said he was in London to Netflix and chill with a girl. But he is sentenced by a court in London to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 35 years. 4 more men were convicted for their involvement. Anis is linked to Amir Mekki. According to the police, on March 10, 2020 in Tyringe in Sweden, Niffe, together with other men, tried to murder Musti, one of Amir Mekki's men. The first shot from the automatic rifle missed and the second one jammed in the barrel, so the assassination attempt had to be aborted. 4 men were charged with this crime. On March 22, 2020 at 11 o'clock on Sunday evening, there's a shooting on Västra Hindbyvägen at Almtorget in southern Malmö. 19-year-old Romario is said to have been shot with several shots and dies from his injuries. Romario is often seen working with Krokodil, who is in the alliance with Danny J, so Amir Mekki's crew is considered to be behind the murder. On May 5th, 2020, Axe is released from police custody, and on May 9th, 2020, at the Emporia shopping mall in Malmö, the 2 different groups bump into each other in a store. Axe side linked to Danny J and the other side to Amir Mekki. A fight breaks out when Axe hits one of the men in the face. There is a commotion, and Axe wants to continue attacking the other group and runs towards them. Most of them have armed themselves by now with knives from different places in the mall, but the situation does not have time to escalate further, and both groups leave the mall before the police shows up. Axe also received a lot of attention in Sweden when he was shot in the head, neck and hand by a Magnum 357 in 2015 in Tallhöjden in Norra Hammar, aged just 16, after a conflict with a group called the Crocodiles. His friend, a 17-year-old, dies, but Axe, the 16-year-old, miraculously survives both gunshot and stab wounds and calls 112. However, the 112 operator does not believe the 16-year-old when he says that he has been shot in the head. May 22nd, 2020. Danny J is at the Best Western Hotel in Ängelholm. From the surveillance cameras, it appears that at 20:45, Danny comes out of the elevator and goes to the hotel's restaurant. By pure coincidence, he comes close to Salle, Amir Mekki's right-hand man's table, and Salle's wife reacts to Danny and alerts Salle to Danny's presence. Danny quickly turns around and gets out of there, then tells his people he wants someone to quickly put a GPS tracker on Salle's car so they can track him down and kill him. But this plan fails. The then 23-year-old Amir Mekki, who is a Danish citizen and has been on the run since 2018 after being suspected of several explosions and murders on the Spanish coast. He is arrested in Dubai. He was only 20 years old when he established himself on Costa del Sol, but his gang was already at that time attributed to at least 17 major crimes in Sweden. Spanish police and Interpol claim that Amir is the leader of the criminal gang known in the Spanish media as Los Suecos, the Swedes. He is suspected and accused of murder, drug trafficking and money laundering. Amir is said to have been moving from Spain, Morocco, Thailand and finally Dubai. Meanwhile, plans are being made to assassinate Amir Mekki while he is in custody in Spain. Inquiries are being made to Spanish contacts if it is possible to have him assassinated in prison and how much it would cost. There's also an idea to kidnap Amir's father and put his head in the middle of the square, Stortorget, with a pig's head next to it. This is proposed by Danny J so that Amir Mekki will definitely know that he is responsible, since that was what Amir said he would do to Danny J's little brother. During this time, 3 of 6 accused members of the gang known as Los Suecos are sentenced to more than 30 years in prison each for bombings and extortion. All the convicted men, as well as 3 other people who are charged, come from Malmö. The three men who have not yet been prosecuted are Amir Mekki, Pappo, and Fakhri, Amir Mekki's brother. These three men are charged with murder. On August 19th, 2020, the now 39-year-old Danny J was arrested on probable cause on suspicion of preparing to murder Salle in Ängelholm. The police only became aware of the murder through the international police operation that managed to crack the encrypted telephone network EncroChat. Danny was detained with two other men for involvement in the planned murder. Danny is said to have previously lived in Spain for a long time, and Salle, who was to be murdered, was very close to Amir Mekki and his banker, who was murdered. In addition to the prosecution for planning to commit murder, Danny J is also singled out as one of Sweden's biggest organizers of drug smuggling from Spain and Colombia to Sweden. Danny is later sentenced to 5 years in prison for drug smuggling in Gothenburg in a separate case. Therefore, when he is later convicted of preparation for murder, he only gets a prison sentence of 1 year and 6 months, which is not added to the sentence he is already serving. Amir Mekki is still in custody in Spain awaiting trial. His brother Fakhri is awaiting trial a free man, but without his passport. Regardless of whether Amir Mekki and Los Huecos are convicted, only time can tell if this war is over.